So I just decided to just create another video for this part of item one. So let's say that this question that you answer in the affirmative or yes to this question. Are you not yet ready to take a definite position with respect to whether or not Derek Chauvin was overly assertive in his restraining of George Floyd? You're not sure. So you still have to copy a sentence, right? So you'll copy this sentence and you will not tweak it. You do have to remember what it means for you to say that it's not rational for you to take a definite position. Like I said, I already lectured on that. Okay, then you have one of two options. Then you have two options to select from. So you copy this sentence first. It is a conclusion. And then you have to decide which of these applies to you. So this one says, if you cannot make up your mind because you see opposing sides, and maybe there's more than two opposing sides, present the conclusion for one side and then at least one reason in support of that side. Then you will, as stated here, present a conclusion for the other side and at least one reason in support of this other conclusion. Okay, so here's where we have some missing information. Okay, so the missing information here is that you can write this over here, is that you need to add a sentence telling me something to the effect that, why, how this makes it impossible for you to decide, or how seeing the logic shows you that there's reasons for both sides, or saying that, the arguments for each side don't give you a reason-based condition for drawing a definite conclusion. So you need to say something to that effect. So pick one of those phrases, maybe tweak it a little bit so that you're not plagiarizing, something like that. Something that shows attention to the lecture that I did on what it means to be rational in one of the 1B lectures. Yes. Okay, so again here, basically you're stating your conclusion, right? This is going to be your main conclusion. Write this down because this is going to help you later in the semester. Later, we're going to call this the final conclusion, even if it comes first. You'll learn about this later and why, okay? That will be your main conclusion, that it's not rational for you to decide on a definite conclusion. And then you're going to give me, basically in your paragraph, I'm putting it out in the list-like form, but you're going to put it in paragraph form. You're going to give me a minor conclusion, okay? And that's going to be the conclusion for side A. And then you're going to give me at least one reason, what? In support of the conclusion for that side. Then you're going to give me another minor conclusion. Okay, so the conclusion for the other side. And then at least one reason for this other side. And then the sentence that I told you to add, that sentence is needed to make all of this, and this will all be relevant to getting to this conclusion. So the beauty with going with this response, if it applies to you, is that you have more of a template. And you don't have to worry so much. I mean, you do need to worry about relevance. So when you give the reason for one side of the debate, that reason must be relevant to that conclusion for that side of the debate. When you give a reason in support of an opposing conclusion, then your reason must be relevant. The content in your reason for the opposing conclusion must be relevant to that conclusion. I don't expect you, because this answer is going to be longer, you probably won't have enough space, and I don't want you to write too much. So don't worry too much about sufficiency or if you have enough reasoning in support of the minor conclusions, but at least try to offer support. One reason in support of one side's conclusion is good enough in terms of minimum expectations, but try to see if you can give at least two statements worth of reasoning for one side of the debate and their conclusion, and then at least two sentences worth or two statements of reasoning in support of the opposing conclusion that you can see on the other side of the debate. All of this, if you do it correctly, will be relevant automatically to the main conclusion. Adding this sentence is going to add adequacy. Adding the sentence that I talked about will help to, will bring in more support. It'll this missing sentence will help me to see and shows why you think this is relevant to this with the added sentence here. Okay, so now if you choose this option, and so what I'm saying generally about these things again applies to all items, right? It's just that the context or the prompt is different, the topic is different, but my general points here are the same. Now, it could be, so for the case of, well, no, I don't want to go into specifics. So now, if you cannot make up your mind because you need more information, tell me exactly that, as well as what information you need, what kind, from whom, why, and how that information is relevant to taking a definite position. Here, you want to add a sentence that tells me about the connection between having all the information you need, being able to access all those sources, and your ability to come to a definite conclusion. What is the relationship between those two? Add a statement about that. So basically, you're going to tell me that as a reason, so you're giving me here, this would be an argument with a main conclusion that you have copied from here, right? And then you'll tell me about information. So then a reason you'll give will have to do with information you need, and then a minor conclusion, okay, that tells me where the source needed to get this information. You want to do this at least once, but maybe you can think of 2 or 3 different kinds of information and hence 2 or 3 different kinds of sources that you might need. And each time you tell me what kind of information you need, you're in effect giving me a reason, and then that reason will be used to support a minor conclusion that you need to consult some source or organization or kind of expert or literature or evidence or whatnot. Doing this will provide relevant support to this main conclusion that it's not rational for you to take a definite position. And then adding the missing sentence will help to make sure that you've provided, or make it more likely that you've provided enough support, because this missing sentence, this missing statement, helps to bind this part of your logic to the main conclusion. Now remember, there are examples of how to do this, almost like templates, if you will, from an earlier lesson. So remember the example for this option here. Remember that is given on page 4. Correct response for someone not able to take a definite position. So that was the second argument on page 4 from 1B. And that's for when you can't make up your mind based on opposing sides. So you might want to look at that example if you go with this. And then remember on page 5 of the 1B lesson that I gave you an example, like I said, almost a template for not being able to make up your mind because you're missing information. So make sure that you look at this example here. I think that's all I want to say about this. Let me just double check my notes. There is one more thing that I want to say about your answer. It's a missing requirement, but it's a missing requirement for either option that you choose. So I'm going to post yet another video, and this video will cover a missing requirement for both this, taking a definite stance, and not taking a definite stance.